Rosco, and welcome to EV Marketplace on a Wednesday night. And if it's, well, now 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, it's EV night. And thanks for joining me if you're watching live on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you're watching on Catch Up, thanks for joining us because we've got another huge night tonight. Going a bit sideways, a bit forwards, a bit round in circles about EVs, but ending up back in the same place with used EVs and your usual dose of deals, data, and EV discovery. So tonight we have special guest, Rosie Barnes from Engineering with Rosie. She's agreed to join us because, well, not only has she got a great YouTube channel, some ideas about engineering and making electricity I've never heard of, but she also bought a used EV about 6 months ago. So when I saw that on one of her videos, I reached out and she's agreed to come on tonight, have a chat about that, maybe answer some questions. Thanks for joining us, Don. Thanks, Mrs. Amazing. Good to see you guys here. And so if you've got any questions for Rosie, let her know. But after the show, we're going to dive into some of what the latest listings on our EV marketplace. Amazing EV, of course. And the show is brought to you by Amazing EV. And without them and us, we wouldn't have a reason to be here. Some great new listings this week. So it has been a huge week. Lots of new cars coming onto the market. Lots of used EVs coming onto the market. So show you some of those a bit later on as well. And, well, we've got some new breaking news as well. A couple of the new cars come out. And then I caught up with Brendon Green from Pickles. He's produced his latest quarterly report on the market. So caught up with him for a pre-record to round the show off a bit later on. And he's going to tell us all about his summary of what's happened and talk about some of those articles that were up about a month ago about what's going to happen with this deluge or this glut of used EVs coming on the market. He's got some more to say about that, but let's not waste any more time. Let's fire away. Rosie's waiting in the wings. Let's fire away. Rosie, welcome to EV Marketplace on a Wednesday night.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining me. It's been a big fan, following your channel for a long time. Some great stuff about renewable energy. I noticed you bought a used EV, which piqued my interest as well. So I wanted to get your story on that. So thanks for joining me. And look, we usually ask our guests what their EV aha moment was. But in your case, what was your renewable energy aha moment? When did it all start to make sense for you?
I've been working with renewable energy since 1 year into my career. So I finished my engineering degree in 2005, my bachelor's degree. And I just, I don't know, I just thought that climate change was obviously a big problem. It didn't seem debatable to me. And it used to get me down like quite a bit. And then I realized that actually as an engineer, then my skill set could help to solve that problem. And since I've been working on renewables, I do feel a lot calmer. I don't feel great about climate change, but I at least feel like I'm working to move things in the right direction.
Exactly. And I guess it is nice now to be in a space like that where you've got opportunities to see ideas, see things that are at least heading in the right direction. And I want to spend a bit of time, and again, thanks for joining us, guys. But I wanted to spend a bit of time tonight just having a look at some of the ideas that Rosie's investigated because it's extraordinary. Before we get back to EVs, it's fascinating for me as well that this is all part of the whole scheme, and fundamentally driving an EV for me is also all about not using petrol, right, and using electricity. I come from an AV, audio-visual background. Everything's electric, basically. All tools, all equipment, everything. The last bastion is a car. So it makes a hell of a lot more sense as well to me as well. But again, let's jump straight in because Rosie's got a fantastic YouTube channel. She's got a heap of subscribers. I don't know if you need any more, over 125. We met a couple of years ago and that's grown incredibly, but also a consulting business. So you don't make any money out of YouTube, do you? So you tell us a bit more about your consulting business.
Yeah, so my consulting business, the type of engineering I do is basically product development for energy technologies. And the bulk of that has been in wind energy subsystems. Spent 5 years working in Denmark on that topic. And before that, did a PhD on that topic. So a lot of the work that we do at Partaload is related to wind energy O&M. Basically, if companies have wind turbines, if they have problems with their blades, then they get in touch with me and I help them figure out why and hopefully solve it as well. Yeah, and then I mean the YouTube, it doesn't make money, but that's mostly because I don't spend that much time doing it. I have an editor who edits the videos. The last one took him 40 hours to edit the one video. So you can imagine that I wouldn't be getting a lot of other work done if I did that. So yeah, it certainly makes some people money, not me a whole lot of money.
Exactly, you can't rely on that for your real job, but it's certainly it spreads the message, that's for sure, and that's what we're trying to do with our channel as well. It's just at least spread the message to help people understand and get more familiar with the market and the used car market. But some of the places you've been and some of the things you've done are just fascinating for me. And can I touch on that before we get into cars? And is there too much solar at the moment in Australia?
No, I don't think so. There's certainly enough solar that it's causing challenges in the grid. Yeah. But that video, basically I was talking about, challenges in the grid is nothing new for Australians anyway. We've got a really big country with not that many people living in it, lots of big distances between towns and cities, and that's always been hard to keep that electricity reliable. And so I think that's really well placed in Australia to be the ones that have, the most variable renewables in our grid out of anyone, especially like if you consider that we're not connected, like Denmark has a lot of wind energy, but they're also connected to Germany and to the rest of the Nordics. And so our challenge is harder, but then we're also better placed, I think, to solve it. So that's mostly what that video was about.
Is there an argument for a big solar farm in the middle of Australia to distribute to the whole country and just take care of the whole problem with one gigantic investment? Something as ridiculous as that?
I don't think it would take care of the problem. I mean, the sun still sets at night. I guess that you would have your huge solar farm and you would have your huge factories. And then you would need to build transmission, which is probably the hardest part of the transition at the moment, or transmission and wind energy are probably the hardest parts. But also you just have to, if you rely only on solar, then you have to overbuild so much to cover, to have enough solar panels that you're generating enough power in the middle of winter. You could do it. It wouldn't be the cheapest way to do it. Cheapest way to do it definitely still includes a lot of wind.
So wind power is one of your specialties. Are we sort of on track to get that mix right?
At the moment, it's not quite on track. It's not that far off, but it's the slowest part. Solar panels, batteries, and increasingly EVs are kind of have a momentum of their own because it's they're small and very modular, distributed. Households can make choices about those things. You don't need to wait for the business case doesn't need to totally stack up before people start getting interested. I mean, the business case for all of those is there now, so that's why I think that they're really moving fast. Wind energy is not doing as well, and we do need some more wind farms. The government's providing a bit of incentive. I don't think it's really working that well, so I think that we are going to have a problem with being able to actually close our coal power plants as planned over in the 2030s. If we don't have the wind in place first, then I think that we'll see coal plant extensions needing to happen, and I definitely don't want to see that. So I am hopeful that we can accelerate the pace on wind farm development in the next few years.
Is that an offshore and onshore? How do you see the mix?
I actually don't think we need offshore in Australia. I'm very interested in offshore. Engineers like to work on challenging things, and offshore wind is very challenging. Might be why I especially love floating offshore wind. And I was just in Japan a few weeks ago, and that's one of their best options actually for building energy of any energy generation of any kind, not just renewables. In Australia, I don't think that we should be the ones to spend the extra money to develop that, because we've got just so many good options here, and there are a lot of really great onshore wind resources left. So we don't need it in that sense. However, it does solve some problems because you don't need as much transmission, and it has good generation profile. It tends to generate more in the winter, more in the evening. So, that's that's quite nice. I think that Victoria is pretty firmly committed to it, so I
Yeah.
think that we will have some. But yeah, I don't see it needed. Like, it's not a necessary part of our energy transition at all.
And when you say generation profile, you mean making the right amount of electricity at the right time so that we can use it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I think a really good example is Western Australia. If
Yeah.
anybody's, been to Perth, and what do they call it, the Fremantle Doctor? So you've got
Yeah.
like a really, really hot, stifling heat in the
Yeah.
daytime, and then in the evening, this really big breeze
Yeah.
comes from the south and off the coast, and it's just perfectly timed
Mm.
for the sun setting and the wind comes up, and it's just so well correlated to
Yeah.
or anti-correlated to solar, and the same, it's stronger in
Yeah.
winter than it is in summer, and so it, like, balances out nicely. So there's quite a few places like
Yeah.
that where the profile just nicely matches what solar can't do and what the grid needs.
Yeah. And you have to just keep reminding everybody that like 3/4 of the power is used between 6 o'clock in the evening and 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, right? So that's when you need it. And that's where batteries are coming. So on batteries, is V to G going to be part of that solution, do you think, longer term? For actually, if you're generating a lot of solar during the day, there's home batteries, of course, but does the V to G, does the car battery fill a spot there? Mm.
I think so. It's
Mm.
V2G is something that I have loved for years,
Yeah.
and I guess I've kind of been a little bit disappointed in
Yeah.
how fast the progress hasn't been. But then again, like, when I first started getting interested, like maybe 4 years ago, I first
Mm.
heard about V2G and was like, yay, this is, like, there's
Yeah.
no technology impediment to it rolling out immediately. But until you have like a whole lot of EVs,
Yeah.
it's limited in what it can do.
Yeah.
So I guess we had to wait for that. But yeah, no, I definitely think that it's going to be big. Probably less transformative than I would have thought a few years ago, because
Mm.
household batteries have just taken off, like
Yeah.
crazy. But it's like, household batteries, but many more, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
And
I think
cheap
my
and
car
yeah.
battery is like 60 kilowatt hours, and I'm looking at getting a home battery, and it'll be a little
Yeah.
under 20. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
exactly.
a
And
tripling, or if we had two cars, then like six times. So
it
yeah,
can run
it's a lot of storage.
4 or 5 homes. Yeah, and I didn't get it to start with. I was anti, and Ross Durango explained it to me about 2 months ago. We had him on the show, and because I didn't get it, and he took me through the profile of the day and the usage scenario, and now I get it. Now I understand. But then the stick in the mud is that or that the batteries, home batteries, are producing so much power, as I understand it, that those spikes and fluctuations in the evening aren't as prevalent as they were, and so the demand
Mm.
has been smoothed a lot, and the wholesale cost has come down in that peak period. But yeah, any engineer and anyone with a bit of logic would say tons of batteries here, demand over demand over there. Put the two together, because otherwise it's just a complete waste of resources, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And I guess the old chestnut. Do you ever see nuclear being part of the solution for Australia?
I mean, there was a petition from a young guy, Will, who is super keen on nuclear in Australia, and there was a petition that he was promoting to. I think he set it up to remove the ban that Australia
Yeah,
has on nuclear power. And
yeah,
I mean, I signed that because I don't want to ban on nuclear power. I
yeah.
think, I don't have anything against nuclear. It's
Mm,
a perfectly good way to generate electricity,
yeah,
but it's just it's expensive, more expensive than the other options Australia has, and it kind of just doesn't fit well with
yeah.
the path that we're on, the things that we already have in place and already
Mm,
have committed. Like, it's not that good a complement to variable renewables. What you need, like, batteries are a perfect complement to
yeah,
variable renewables. Gas is a good complement to variable
yeah,
renewables, because you can just ramp it up and down, quickly to and it can respond to changes in weather patterns, whereas nuclear
yeah,
can possibly do that with new technologies. However, it just makes it more expensive if you have fewer hours to divide
yeah,
divide your cost by. So yeah, my main issue with nuclear in Australia is just it would slow down the
yeah,
renewables transition, and I think that that's what it was mostly about in the previous election. The people who the politicians that were promoting nuclear, that's what they wanted from it, was
Yeah,
to slow down the transition. I think that there's heaps of regular Australians who just like nuclear power for one reason or another. I don't think everybody is
no,
so cynical about it, but it's certainly like, when I would go to energy events over the couple of years that we were
yeah,
talking about it, it would be very rare, and I want to say, like, I would practically never meet someone who was in favor
yeah,
of nuclear for Australia specifically, even if we
yeah,
acknowledge that it can be a good source, a good part of the mix for other countries
yeah,
like UK, France going
yeah,
for it. Great.
yeah,
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 Japan as well. Fully support them reopening as many of their reactors as
yeah.
they can do safely.
We've got
And
lots
yeah.
of the other stuff. We've got lots of sun. We've got lots of wind. We've got lots of space, right? So, and we've got a few bits and pieces of resources. And I guess that's the tough part, isn't it? These challenges. There's a lot of ideas, and you see a lot of things as an engineer, and a lot of things get worked on or experimented on, put into models. But yeah, engineering the actual solution is often the hardest part. And again, I'm a fan of snowy hydro too. But the timetable to build a nuclear power is that the problem often is the actual execution of some of these ideas?
Yeah, I think so. And it's not just that we have sun and wind in Australia. We have solar panels and we have wind
Yeah,
turbines in Australia. Like, we're already
yeah,
generating a huge chunk of
yeah,
our electricity from those sources. It's up, in the mid 40%
yeah,
renewables in our electricity mix now. And there's already quite a lot more committed. And
yeah,
also, as the batteries are really accelerating in their installation, which is going to mean you can use more of the solar and wind that we're currently curtailing in the middle of the day. So yeah, it's just like, by the time that you would get nuclear installed, and I think that the average time around the world is to build a new nuclear plant is around a decade.
yeah,
I don't know why. We would think that we would be faster than that when we have never had a nuclear power plant.
yeah,
So, like, it's not just does nuclear slot into our energy system today. So you have to, project forward
yeah,
10 years for the things that are already momentum for.
yeah,
And yeah, in 10 years' time, we
yeah,
should have quite a few coal power plants already closed.
yeah,
So we can't actually just pause and just wait. We would have to extend coal power plants to get new nuclear in Australia. And I
mhm,
think, again, like, I think that was the point.
yeah.
Um,
So we'll
yeah.
wrap this part up with what does the power horizon look like in Australia? The mix look like in say 2050, say 20 years out, 25 years out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like, if you'd asked me this question like 2 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago, then I would have said it would be a little bit more than half wind, a little bit
Yeah,
less than half solar, and the same, 6 or so% hydro. In fact, that will drop the share of hydro because we can't build any more hydro, but we're
yeah,
going to have more electricity demand because of things like EVs and yeah, industrializing or electrification of
mm,
industry as well. But now, because I've seen how quickly and how huge batteries can
yeah,
become, I think we will see more solar and batteries, and a bit less wind. But if we don't build wind, then it's going to end up being a lot more expensive to whatever our electricity system will be in the future.
I know that's fantastic. Next time I'm going to ask you to come on in 6 months and talk about battery tech because yeah, I can see some incredible advancements in salt and other battery technologies. So, but we'll wait till next time because let's get back to cars. And 6 months ago, you bought a used EV. So I was curious. Again, lots of people buy a used EV for various reasons, but it's not often their first one. So it really interested me when I saw that as to why you bought it, what the choice was. It's a Kia Niro EV, which is a favorite of mine. Nice little car. Again, can you take us through what your rationale was?
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, and there's a backstory. This is not your first used EV, right?
Right, right. And I've actually had this one just a little over a year because I
Okay.
I bought it, or maybe it got delivered about exactly a year ago because
Yeah.
I bought it. I got a good end of financial year deal on it. That's why I remember how long.
Okay.
And I just renewed my rego as well.
Okay. No,
um,
my apologies. Yeah.
no, no, that's okay. Yeah, so I mean, I wanted an EV because everything that I do, I did feel like a bit of a hypocrite. But my problem was that I didn't like, have that much spare money, and so that's literally it. There's
Yeah.
no sort of
No.
like morality or conviction
Yeah.
or like
No,
any
you weren't
gender. I'm
recycling.
trying to push with used
You weren't
EV.
recycling the world that much that you couldn't bring yourself to buy a new car, right? So
No, but I mean, the thing is that realistically, I can't actually imagine a time when I would think that buying a new car was like a good use of my money. Like, I'm going to
no,
have,
yeah,
we bought a house like 2 years ago.
yeah,
It's the first time that I have bought a house. The mortgage payments make me want to nearly cry, like very often. So, like
mm,
even if I have the spare money, like an extra 40
mm,
grand or whatever, I would rather that in my offset than, in a
yeah,
new car. And I just, I would love to think of a time when that won't be true. But
mm,
yeah, new cars are just not, they don't seem like a good financial decision to make. That's basically it. And then, yeah, so I originally I had even less money actually when I
yeah,
went to buy the first one, probably 2 years ago. And I got one, you remember the Good Car Company? I'm sure if you're into EVs, then you would
mm,
know about them. So I bought one of their cars. I got a really good deal on it. I spent only like 20 grand or something, which was like nothing 2 years ago for an EV. It was a Peugeot, and it
yeah,
was just the only way that I could have gotten into an EV. There was almost nothing available secondhand at that
yeah,
time. Other than that, there were a few, but very, very, very few. Um, but I had some problems with it. Nothing EV specific. I don't even know if it was the battery or not. Just
yeah,
heaps of warning lights. No, like every time that someone would come and plug in a diagnostics, it would give another 30 different warnings. It was different from each other every time,
yeah,
and I just literally couldn't find anybody that could get into the firmware to even find out what was going on and
yeah,
have a go at fixing it. And it was still under warranty, and so because it was bought from a dealer, and so I just got a refund for
yeah,
it.
okay,
It's easier than like I really
yeah,
definitely didn't want to just like discard it. And it did get auctioned off, and someone bought it, and I'm sure that they would have
yeah,
at the very least done something with the battery, which did not seem to be degraded. At least like there was issues with the like there were lots
that's
of battery related faults, but there was
yeah,
everything related faults. So I just think write it off to kind of being, like modern cars have a lot of electronics, and if you can't get into the firmware, then
mm,
there's not much future in car owning that car for you.
yeah,
So yeah, that
and
was kind of it. But
but
yeah,
that's yeah. We'll come back to the Kia and we'll focus on the reason for that. But yeah, the grey imports present all sorts of problems. Lots of Nissan Leafs are grey imports, and whether you'll get the support that you need if something does happen, whether it's software or hardware related, is difficult. And you throw your dice in relation to grey imports, and yeah, I don't know, may
yeah,
interest
I was
you know,
definitely
Peugeot.
naive about that.
Yeah,
But I wasn't the first one to
yeah.
import have one of those cars. There were
No, no,
plenty
no,
of
no.
others
Yeah,
like same car.
yeah,
So I assumed it would be okay. I did check before I bought it that I would be able to
yeah,
insure it. I at least, like did some sort of due diligence. Obviously not enough, but yeah. So I would never do it again. But if I did do another great import, then I would also be making sure that it could,
yeah.
I'd be calling places to try and book it in for a service and see what they said. Yeah. So anyway, after that, I didn't have any car at all for about 6 months or maybe more. And so, that's even better than a secondhand EV, for climate is just riding your bike everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so
Are you a spreadsheet kind of buyer, or are you just more an impulse buyer? What's the level of your research? Mm.
Oh, definitely a spreadsheet, though I had very clear selection criteria for
Yeah,
this one. So the first one was that it was going to be a mainstream car,
yeah,
that there were quite a lot of. And so that narrowed it down a lot to like only, and I used to have a Golf back in the day,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
just think that's a really good size of car. Or
yeah,
I had a Corolla, like old Corolla
yeah,
84 and a 79 Corolla, like my very early car ownership days. That's a perfect size to me. So I always wanted something that size,
yeah,
a hatchback where you can put stuff in the back. Um, and that narrowed it down quite far. I don't like Teslas because I don't like having to keep on moving my eyeballs to the center. Like, that's it. I hate that, so I don't want to do that. So I chose one where I didn't have to do that. And then I test drove a bunch. I actually just hired every time I need, because I didn't have a car. So
Yeah.
every time I needed to drive and my partner was using his car, then I had to hire one. And so I used that opportunity to hire every EV that I could. So I hired. Hold on, I'm just going to have to just go to check on my son. Can I? Sorry, pause live.
That's okay.
Everyone, go make a cup of tea.
That's all right, no
Hold on.
problem. we'll go. We'll go to an ad break while Rosie is checking her son. Hey, check out some of the cars at Amazing EV this week. We'll be back shortly. Rosie's back again. family first show. That's
Yeah, that happens.
so. We were going to go through a whole lot of stuff, but we'll let you go. And just, do you like it? Do you love it? What would you do differently? Can you recommend it to a family?
Yeah, I like it. I love it, and I would recommend it to a family. All those things. I kind of it's probably not like fully optimized. If we're a two-car household, then I
Yeah.
would want one with a bigger battery than this and one with a smaller battery
Yeah.
than this. But that said, I think I was just talking about this with my partner the other day, because he's like, "Oh, you'll have to sell it and get a smaller one once we get a bigger car." I'm like, "Oh, like, is it worth the effort of flipping a car?" Like, I hate selling a car. It's bad.
We'll
Buying
help
is
you at
even
Amazing. We'll help you at
so.
Amazing EV. We'll make it easy for you. Okay. So you've come to the right place, Rosie. Okay.
Well, yeah, like the big one, we can you can help us out with. But I think I would just hold on to this. Like, who cares if
Yeah.
it's a slightly larger battery than what I need for the second car? But like I've driven to Sydney often with it. I was up to from Canberra to Gosford the other day. And yeah, soon I'll try and recreate I did a road trip like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
From Canberra to Melbourne and then back via Wagga or
Oh yeah.
regional centre. It was such a pain. The like one way went great, everything went smoothly, and then the other way was just like such a nightmare. And so it'll be interesting to recreate it, because I have noticed that over the last few years, there's so many more charges. Like back then, 5 years ago, you'd plan out your trip, and then if you had a planned charge and the charger wasn't working, it was dire straits, like absolutely like, oh my God, like where can I go find a motel with an extension cord and like add an extra day onto my trip? Or you're just charging every time you saw a charger just in case the next one didn't work. It was no good. And it's not like that now. You know, like these days, if the charger doesn't work, you just get another one in the same town, the same small country town. Usually they have several. So
Exactly.
it will be good to repeat that.
And you're in Canberra, and look, Canberra reached 45. I know there was like 23% penetration on the new car market overall, and everyone was celebrating. But I think congratulations to the ACT. They were 45% last month of all cars sold were EVs, and I think they're getting close to 5% on the road. At least 5% are on the road. Correct me if I'm wrong, but. So congratulations to everyone in the ACT. You're doing a sterling job down there. So
and where I live, the part of Canberra where I live has got lots of like old school hippies, but wealthy ones, and so there's a lot higher than that driving around in the suburb and surrounding suburbs from where I am. So definitely see it.
Hey, thanks, Rosie. Hey, we didn't get to batteries, car batteries. Rosie did a battery test after she bought the car. Do one before, would you please? She's a big fan of battery
Well,
testing. We're going to go.
how? Yeah, we'll have to just continue talking longer because but like how are you supposed to do that? Because the one that I did, like yes, you can take it and do the stationary test. I never found out how that test actually works, despite
Okay,
trying very hard. So
I know.
I'm not like since Dieselgate, like I'm very distrustful of anything that the car computer wants to tell you. Like I don't want to trust it.
I know.
So the one I did, you
Yeah.
needed it's a relatively short test drive,
Yeah.
but I still needed like 10% or more of the battery drained in one drive. And for
Yeah.
this car, it was like 50 Ks nearly that I needed to drive.
Yeah.
You can't drive that in a test drive. And so if the sellers haven't already done the test and have the certificate, like you've got no choice. So anyway, so that's why I bought from a dealer. The car has 5 years of warranty, or 4 now, but it had 5 when I bought it. So, I don't have to worry about that for a while. But yeah, everyone needs to ask when they're buying a new car, they need to ask, where's your test?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have one? Okay, well, let me go test it for, an hour so that I can get all of this, kilometers on the clock and get my own test. So yeah, everyone asks.
Well, you did the Avalon test. We'll check next time. But yeah, please, we both advocate getting a battery test before, not after. So luckily it was okay, wasn't it? It was fine.
Well, I've got the warranty, so it's okay if it's not. But yeah.
Where did you end up buying it from? Was it private or was it dealer? I'll finish with that. How's that sound?
A dealer, yeah. Actually, I just before end of financial year, I'd figured out which car I wanted and just brought up all of those ones for sale in Australia, and just called around offering 10,000 less than what they were advertised for, and eventually I found someone. So I got such a good deal. I'm so proud of myself for my negotiation on this car.
That's exactly the way to do it. Just because again, and was it a Kia dealership or was it another dealership? Just as a matter of interest.
Yeah, Kia. Yeah, they sell Kia. Yeah.
Excellent.
You had 500 Ks on the clock. Yeah.
Hey, we haven't. Hopefully, you come back again next time, Rosie. Thanks very much. We didn't cover half of what I wanted to cover, but thanks for your time. Really appreciate it, and hopefully, you can come back again next time. We'll carry on talk about battery chemistry and other types of chemistry. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great. Thanks
a lot. See you next time. That was Rosie from Rosie's Engineering. You can catch her on her YouTube channel. And look, we're just getting started. We had an ad break while Rosie had to attend to some family matters. So we're going to push on. We've got Brendon Green coming up shortly as well. I've did a pre-recording with him earlier in the week. And look, he gave us a fantastic update on the used EV market here in Australia. But I've got some breaking news in the meantime, and we saw this only come out yesterday. Another new car on the market, just in case you thought we had enough. There's been a bit of demand, and been always demand for used small EVs in the last couple of years. There's always been, in fact, we haven't had enough. This one was pretty well advertised. It was coming, and we got this news release yesterday, the Geely EX2. It is another small car to add to maybe the Atto 1, the Ion UT. I think it's Ion, not Aeon, I've been told. The Atto 1, the Fiat 500e, which is still a few floating around. So finally, we got at least 3 or 4 in that range. It's a nice looking car. What do you guys think? Has anyone had a look at this? Interested in the Geely EX2? Again, pretty small in terms of battery size. Not a bad looking car. So well spec'd. I don't know, pretty funky looking shape. I like the Ion UT. I've seen a few of these around. I haven't seen the EX2 yet. No X-Pung news tonight. You haven't missed the X-Pung news. It's Geely news tonight. EX2 news tonight. And thanks for joining me. Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Darren. And good to see you guys. Thanks, Hal. Had peaked out at 21 viewers there watching Rosie, and back to Rosco and the Geely EX2. But yeah, really interesting. I found this one pretty amazing because the specs came up on this one. We'll have a little bit closer. And I guess you are going to get a cheap car. There's no doubt about that. 26.4 recommended retail plus on roads for the small battery, only a 35 kilowatt hour battery and a very low power motor. Very low DC AC charging speed at 8 kilowatts, very low DC charging. And again, the higher spec model at 30 odd, 31 odd thousand plus on roads, again, you still only get a 47 kilowatt hour battery. So that's the sort of compromises you're making it for these smaller cars, still paying 25, 30 grand if you don't move up to 35. And you're getting a little town car if that's what you want. And I can see a particular market for these cars, and this is amazing. And I've chatted about it, you know, probably what I'm talking about, where they're not doing many Ks, they don't need fast charging, and they're just doing a few Ks to the shop every few days or every bits and pieces around town in a car park, spending most of their day in a car park and maybe one DC charge a week. But you compare that, and if you look at this one, the size of it with the Geely, with the Aeon UT, it is reasonably, it's about the same size. Atto 1's less than 4 meters, and a Fiat 500 is 3.6 meters, so considerably smaller. So sort of around about that Geely EX2 size. Again, here it is. We're going to probably see it very soon, and it's coming up. The Geely EX2 going on sale at the end of July, but no doubt, I'm 100% sure that you will see it at Everything Electric very soon. And I can tell you now from a meeting with Dan Caesar a couple of weeks ago, they have got a number of the Chinese brands locked in. They've got Tesla locked in. I don't know if that's a secret or not, but I've just told you. They've got a lot of reveals, brand new cars. So there is going to be plenty to see on the new car front, and a lot of big dealers committed to that show. And of course, we have secured some discount tickets. There's a 20% discount if you use Amazing EV. Follow the links down below if you want to get your ticket. And if you haven't got your ticket, if you had your ticket from before, it carries over. That's right, John. Same length as the BYD Dolphin. I know. So probably bigger than it seemed, that Geely. Probably bigger than it seemed, but pretty low. Again, you're making some pretty big compromises on battery size, and I think that's the Atto 2 is probably a little bit bigger, but much smaller battery. And the BYD Dolphin's still got pretty generous battery for its size. So all those factors weighing up about how far you go, what you do. This one's, again, in personal taste on looks and colours. We'll go back to some of the specs on that, because some of those prices are bumped up by some of those paint options, but pretty incredible specifications overall, but pretty low charging speeds, pretty low power, pretty low battery sizes. But again, that's what you get for your 30 grand. So that one came out only a couple of days ago. Everything Electric, 18th till the 20th of September. Check out the discount code below, Amazing EV, for 20% off. If you haven't already got it, that is absolutely amazing. I will be there. We'll be there. If you want to catch up, we'll be there, and we're going to start promoting it now, because I'm glad they're back. And as you can see, a few changes in the lineup. They've gone with a local lineup, and Tom's going to be anchoring it. Dan's here. Sarah's going to be there, and Simone, I think is her name, and Elliot from China. The names are actually written there. If I'd have a closer look, yes, indeed, the names are actually written there. All big YouTubers and plenty of following. So they've anchored it with Australians, and Elliot, of course, from China. Jack's not coming. Sorry, everybody. And sad news about Imogen leaving recently as well. But the show will go on, so looking forward to that. Hopefully everyone will be at Everything Electric. We're all in, and can't wait to see that as well. Jumping, before I get to Brendon, back into the Everything Amazing EV website, here's one for you. I'll get rid of guest number 2. That's gone. Thank you. Good. Here's one for you, and that is Nathan Gore-Brown from Avalou, Test EV. We'll have to just double check with Nathan that what preparation is required for a battery test, because I don't know if you'd need to do any battery prep beforehand. I think you can just take it in the Avalou test. So, and they've got mobile people down in Canberra as well. So just curious to see what, I'll check with Nathan about what Rosie said, because I didn't think it needed any battery check. Yeah. Has Jack gone? No, Jack's still there. I think, Hal, there was a video. He came out last week, but they're going with local content, and they're not flying them out. So definitely the local, I think the local lineup is going to they're going to promote and get to do the job here. So looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be involved somehow. But this car, Nathan Gore Brown's very own Tesla Model Y, white on white, rare combination if you're interested. You don't see that very often, but immaculately presented, and of course comes with its own battery test. There it is, a 2022, just again on the battery testing, what you can expect in the degradation. Didn't get a chance to have a chat to Rosie about battery chemistry and degradation, but she's done plenty of research on that as well, and how it works and why it works. But 92.7%, he's done 72,000 Ks, right on par for this one. White on white. If you know anybody who's interested in a Tesla Model Y in Queensland, with the white not available anymore, they've gone to that greyish sort of suede colour, so not available. But Nathan Gore Brown, you know him from Avaloo and Test EV, friend of the show. Here's his own personal car. And if you're interested in knowing him, let him or me know. So, look, without further ado, let's move on to Brendon. I had a great session with him. He gave us a catch up. They've just released the Pickles quarterly report for the last quarter up to June. He's had a rocky ride, experienced everything that we've been through in terms of the used EV market in the last 6 months. Incredible ride. He's the one of the managers there of the used car department at Pickles, where they've got both private and dealers. It used to be a big dealer market. Now it's private. You can buy on Pickles. We went through his latest report, and of course he was involved with some conjecture on that News Corp article about a month ago as well. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and have a chat. Let's have a chat to Brendon. I caught up with him earlier the week. We hope. Or not. Hey, Brendon, welcome back to EV Marketplace on a Wednesday night. And it's great to have you with me because, hey, from my perspective, the general manager of automotive solutions at Pickles, one of the biggest auction houses in Australia, is the perfect place to go to get some data and some info on what's happening on both the used car market and the used EV market. And I know you've got a special interest, so welcome back.
Thanks, Ross. Great to be back. Only feels like yesterday we chatted, but there's been a lot go on since that conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think you had a holiday a couple of weeks ago, much deserved after the first half we had. That's for sure. So
it was frantic, and it was nice to just chill out for 3 weeks. Yeah, absolutely.
I know. And look, I guess no one could have predicted 6 months ago when we were looking at this market, and it was ticking along, I guess, on track, we thought, on the used EV side. And I thought, well, maybe it's going to just keep going along. And then suddenly it just took off, right? And what happened from your perspective from the used car market? What happened in the general used general used car market?
Yeah, I mean, the general used car market hasn't been talked about too much, to be honest. It was all very much focused on EVs, but the focus on petrol and diesel cars really did come off. I think there was, just with petrol prices surging, diesel prices surging. Unfortunately, if you owned a used petrol or diesel vehicle, it just depreciated over that period of time.
Exactly. You saw that data coming through?
Absolutely. It really. We always see seasonality occur. So there's always used car prices on ICE vehicles tend to peak, on all vehicles tend to peak at March, right? They build up through summer and they peak in March, and then they slow down during the winter period. We call it the winter dip, and it's what we call seasonality. I think seasonality just returned earlier this time, and it's still early now. So ICE vehicles tended to price in February as opposed to March. And then, and they softened, but they have softened to a point that we haven't seen in many years. So, but, there's still, there's some really good value out there if you're after an ICE vehicle. But equally at the same time, the EVs rocketed up during the same period. So, something we haven't seen, really since, well, we haven't seen it when EV's gone one way and ICE has gone the other way, really. So a bit of a first.
I know you've got a mixed portfolio of assets that you've, on behalf of clients that you've got to sell. So we'll be reasonably generous today in our bias towards EVs. This one really shows that the price index, your own tracking of used EVs and used cars generally, right, in terms of pricing. So we saw a fall off in general petrol cars, but we saw a big spike as part of that demand for used EVs in that April May period, right?
Yeah, correct. So what this graph shows is what the vehicle prices are today relative to what they were pre-COVID, because there was so much seasonal activity.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was so much activity during COVID and prices went through the roof. We wanted an anchor point back to what that was in the 1st of January 2020.
Yeah.
And so that still shows that, today, ICE vehicle prices are at, about 14% higher than what they were, but they were at sort of 25% higher before what we saw through all the geopolitical challenges that we've had and interest rates and everything else. But EVs have crossed over. I think you can see a little bit of a dip. That's the month of June, right at the end there. We started to see things like new EV supply come back, which I think then used EVs was the flavour of used EVs came off a little bit.
Yeah.
We've also seen a bit of a change in the dynamic of what we're seeing what we're selling from EVs. So during that period, if you had a high mileage EV, it was a great opportunity to be able to sell it. So we saw more rideshare cars, more rental cars come into market than we would typically see. And so even the average kilometres of an EV that we sold jumped from 30,000 to 60,000 basically during that period of time. So that was really a real interesting watch over that period. So we did see prices soften, and I guess they were pretty high for a period of time. So that average is lower now because of the influence of the high mileage assets.
Break this down a bit more, because there's a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
It was just extraordinary. But are you seeing prices? We're seeing prices come back here a little bit on average just in the last month or so. That's the first trend, yeah. Because we assume because of the petrol spike and the demand and the lack of supply of anything, and then they're coming back a little bit now, right?
Yeah, correct. They have softened a little bit, but like I said, the real drop off is more as a result of the profile of vehicle that we're selling with double the Ks. So prices are going to go one way. We've gone from 2.5-year-old assets to 3-year-old assets as an average. So the whole profile has changed a bit.
Right.
So I expect that vehicles the real price is still higher than what that is on a 2.5-year-old 30,000 K car, which is what we were typically selling.
So so the second point, is that not the number of Ks for the same, or I guess they're probably slightly older cars generally with more Ks helped to boost that. So people were getting higher prices for older cars with higher Ks, and perhaps those people hadn't even thought about selling, and suddenly there was an opportunity to get a better price without going too deep into the dynamics. They hadn't even thought about selling, and now suddenly with prices up, they took this opportunity, right?
Correct. And I think, if you had an EV during that time, and it was low mileage and young, you're less likely to sell it, right? So that stock of young, low mileage used EVs just didn't exist for a period of time. It all got sold, and then it was others that started to say, well, I've got a book that's a little bit different. Maybe it's time for me to rotate that now. And then that's what we saw. Equally, the volumes across this. I think when we compare the volume for FY26, it was 150% higher than what it was for FY25. So our volume has just continued to evolve, and we didn't quite, like the last quarter, didn't quite reach the heights of the Q1, which was really driven by that initial spike in vehicles.
Just remind people, from your perspective, I think you've seen a lot more retail demand I looked at some traffic numbers on your sites as well. Absolutely extraordinary, the retail demand that's come through as well. We're in the same game. I'm looking at retail buyers and sellers. You're looking at more perhaps on the fleet side as in terms of sourcing vehicles. Do you want to explain a little bit more to people what services you're providing and who the clients are again, so they understand where the cars are coming from?
So a lot of the cars that we're selling are ex-fleet cars. Some are coming directly from the OEM to be sold to the OEM network, like the dealers themselves, the branded dealers themselves. Yeah. Some are coming from state governments, some are coming from councils, some are finance repossession, some are small corporates, some are rental. A huge range of people that have EVs, really those first adopters, I guess, are going through their wave of a volume. of volume disposal and fleet rotations. So that's where we're seeing them come from. And we know from our customers saying there's going to be a lot more come through in the future as well. And then so on the buy side, we're selling to a mix of dealers and we're to a mix of mums and dads and or small corporates that might just buy from us to put in, into their, the corner shop to put in their into their fleet.
But all this data comes back from Pickle's quarterly automotive report, which has just been released, which Brendon had a big hand in compiling, if not entirely compiling all this data that they've drawn together, and some commentary as well, particularly about the fleet market as well. And which takes us back to a couple of weeks ago for a start, right, when there was a bit of press in the news press about, and you were asked to comment on what's going to happen when supposedly there's an influx or a flood or whatever you want to, whatever it's a natural disaster you want to call it, of supposedly of EVs coming onto the market after they finish their fleet or leasing contracts. Set us straight on exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, look, no doubt the FBT exemptions have been fantastic. Yeah. Novated leases have climbed. EV novated leases have climbed. Yeah. Some of those novated books are now 50% full of EVs. That's incredible. And that's customers, people that may or may not have been going to buy an EV, really motivated them to go out and get a vehicle, get into an EV. Yeah. So incredible uptick on that. Yeah. That's happened over the last 4 years, but that volume hasn't all come on at once. It's been staggered over a 4-year period. So those vehicles will come off over a 4-year period. They're also on leases that might be 2, 3, 4, 5 years at mixed terms. And then at the end, they've got choice. They can replace the vehicle and so sell that vehicle and get a new vehicle. So there's some mix, some volume that come back. Some people, usually a third of people will do that. Another third will go and extend that for another 1 or 2 years. Yeah. Another third will go and buy that and own it for 1 to 3 years. So it's not like all those vehicles will expire and hit the market at once. It's very staggered. And even if people were upside down, as individuals, if you're going to burn $10,000, say, you'd be doing everything not to. So you'd be waiting it out on car sales or putting it into the mortgage on the redraw of the home loan for a period of time, not paying lease payments, but just, that car will be depreciating and then dispose of it at a point in time. So people are going to do a lot of different things. So I just don't see that whole glut of used EVs coming back at once. It's very much diversified from my perspective.
Right. Glut, that was the word they used. And by the way, if anyone, being upside down, for those of you who don't know, is owing more on, or your car being worth less than what you owe on it at the time of maybe some commitment like the end of a lease or the end of a loan or a balloon payment, when you've suddenly got to come up with that money and realise some value, or maybe do something else or refinance, or a million other options, but you're basically upside down in terms of what it's worth and what you owe. So I don't know if there's an opposite to that, but it's maybe it might be just a float. But
and even on that, but before before EV prices spiked, there was probably going to be more challenges in the market from people actually the vehicles not necessarily being worth what the residual value was. I think that's changed somewhat now because those vehicles have got a bit of a nudge along, and prices have jumped up. Yeah. Admittedly, not to the level that we saw in April forever, but they will be higher than what they were. So I don't think there'll be as many people in negative equity when they get to end of lease as what they might have been ordinarily. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the novated market.
Yeah, and all the financiers and the insurance companies and the customers are all breathing a bit of a sigh of relief over that. I think
absolutely.
My scenario was that in January we're all sitting out on our deck chairs and the tide was way out, and we were waiting for the tide to come back, and finally it came back in, right? But for a long time we were sitting way out on the salt flats waiting for that tide to come back in again. So luckily it has come back in. It's restored some sensibility and normality to some of the values. So that I appreciate that, because there was a few comments around and quite a bit of banter going on. Some of what you said in the mix was completely lost, right? And it wasn't considered, so thanks for considering that. And again, you've done a lot of work in terms of your clients about this in future. So we see maybe, look, I'm like you, I'd see maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more cars coming on per month, maybe 1,000 more a week or at max, right? would actually make the market for used EVs far more healthy, where we're only at about 3,500, 4,000 sales per month at the moment, a small micro percentage of the overall used car market. So I'm looking forward to more choice and more healthy product range coming through. But I agree, in a very staggered way. They went on staggered, they'll come off staggered. And I think the demand will be stronger and much stronger by that stage as well.
Yeah, I agree. We've actually gone to the one step further and put a solution in place for novated vehicles as they start to roll off, that you can come and get an offer from Pickles as buy price, or you can get a consignment value up front. We've created on our website, customers can do that. Cost you nothing. So you can get a free valuation essentially as to what the vehicle we would pay for it, or what we can sell it for. If it's got a balloon, we can resolve all of that on your behalf as well. Yeah. So we've really built a lot of that, knowing that our presence was strong in EV. How do we do more for customers?
Yeah.
Let's step into that novated space. So we've got some partners we're going live with at a fleet management level as often as we go out to those customers. So we're really excited by the opportunity that of this new product we've just rolled out.
And another innovation, which I really admire, again, goes back even longer now, but really in the public eye, was the battery testing and the state of health. And can you give us a bit of a summary? Again, we know that has certainly, the average battery health has been a lot better than everyone expected. That's one aspect. You've got those battery tests on every listing where possible. Yep. How's that been received by some of your buyers?
I think the buyers are loving it. If I look at the deal, we're now over 2,500 BEVs we've tested. It's great. Our testing partner is fantastic, really supportive. Which is we use the Evolue solution supported by Nathan Gore-Brown here in Australia. So we do a lot together, which is fantastic. And the dealers, I think, well, just based on the volumes we're selling now compared with what we were, the dealers they're loving it. Prior to us releasing battery health certificates on our EVs, dealers are buying in the 30% range of all of the EVs we would sell. And now it's like 50-50 between the dealer and the consumer. So it's just taken away all the guesswork.
I know, because I'm just going to remind everyone, if you went back to this chart here, back in the olden days in 2022, when prices of used EVs were 160 on that index, were 160% of your baseline. Some dealers got a little bit excited and a little bit over optimistic about the expectations and then got a little bit burnt. And so it's taken a while for some to come back. So anything that in the last 8-12 months to get them back into the market, to have some confidence, to give that support in a market where at least 50% of cars are sold by dealers. We're focusing on private, but need that other side to be held up really to make sure that the confidence in used EVs go forward. But what do you see in the next 6 months in your crystal ball? I know this is a tough one, right? But how do you see the rest of the year playing out?
Well, I thought there was a deal done overseas and, geopolitical events were going to calm down, but that seems to have blown up in the last few days, unfortunately. So, look, I think we will see, as those events calm, I think across the entire, it'll be good for the entire used car market, ICE and EV, right? We see, like I said, seasonality started early particularly for the ICE vehicles. We see that will, we've already started to see, as things started to calm down, more interest back in ICE vehicles again, which is good for the whole market.
Yeah, petrol dropped quickly. Petrol dropped quickly and was cheap without the excise, with the excise subsidy. It was $100.50, so I understand, right? Yeah. I mean,
So we see seasonality returning, I guess. So we're in that low dip now, and then we see the market generally just continues to climb up until Christmas, has a bit of a break over Christmas, and then keeps going into March. So providing geopolitical matters calm, soften, and the like, we should see that return to seasonality. I think from an EV standpoint, I think there's still a lot of people interested in used EVs. This has really woken up that people to know you don't have to buy new as well, but there is a lot of supply in new. So I suspect there'll be strong sales of new assets, and there'll still be somewhat of a focus on the used EVs if that's your way, if you're that way inclined. Because at the end of the day, the ones we're selling, they've still got often 5 years worth of manufacturer warranty, and and they're low kilometre, and they've got a good battery health. Like, why wouldn't you jump into one, right?
I know. And the counter side of that, in terms of the general market is the new ones just keep getting cheaper and cheaper as well. So
Correct.
if that's attracting people to the market, they can make a choice between a late model Tesla at the same price as a new different model that may be unknown. It'll be, the choices are there, and that's the great thing about this market. Hey, thanks for catching up again, Brendon. Brilliant.
No worries.
I really appreciate the work you do with this report because it gives us some great insights, and all the best with pickles for the rest of the year. It's going to be a boomer. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Rosco. Good
Cheers.
to chat. See you, mate.
Hey, thanks, Brendon. Now I'm back live again through the miracle of technology, and just want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Let me know what you think of the new time, 7 till 8 o'clock. We're enjoying it now too. Some great viewership tonight. Let everyone know. It's not a secret anymore. We've got some great guests and some great guests coming up. All EV owners, some wonderful people. Thanks for joining me, Hal. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Murray. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Mrs. Amazing. Thanks, everybody. We had picked out of maybe 21, 22 tonight. So really interesting. Really appreciate Rosie joining us, and fantastic to hear those insights from Brendon from Pickles. So we're big supporters of Pickles. Anyone promoting used EVs and getting the message out there, we're right on board with. But don't forget, check out Amazing EV. Tons of new listings this week. Been really successful. There's a whole lot of new cars joined Amazing EV. There's a whole lot more used EVs out there. If you know anyone who wants to buy a used EV, check it out. If you know anyone who wants to sell, the discount coupon to list for free is down below. Thanks everybody for joining us. Check these out and I'll let you go. Good night.